Daf Amud Ches of Torah Ohr. The mimer in the middle of is the Biur on Rani v'simchi, the paragraph for Ata. So we're talking about how there's the night and day. Night is when we're coming from afar and we sing a song of yearning towards Hashem, whereas simchi, when we're happy, is when there's dil'Eilah, of course, and that revelation of godliness, and that's the idea of day. So now, the pasuk at the beginning of the Torah of Chanukah says, "Rani v'simchi Bas Tzion," to sing and be happy, rejoice, daughter of Tzion. Now, Tzion refers to Malchus. The daughter of Tzion refers to Malchus when it descends down into lower worlds. The reason is because Tzion means a sign or a seal. And the idea of a sign is something which reflects something from higher. A sign of something is something more within our realm, reachable, but it's a sign for something higher. So that's Malchus, which is the end of the spheres, and receives all the lights from above it, which all funnel down through Yesod, which is the second last sphere, and Yesod is the giver, and Malchus is the recipient. And the point of Tzion is that connection of Yesod with Malchus, and this happens through Torah mitzvahs, because mitzvahs, the impact of mitzvahs are primarily in Malchus, because Malchus is where we actually do things. The first 9 spheres are all within the development internally, whereas Malchus is when we act externally. And the explanation of the mitzvah, that's in Zah, that's in the midas, that's explanation and the reasons and benefits, whereas actually doing the mitzvah is Malchus. So, for example, we've got a mitzvah, Kaddish li kol b'cher, which is the beginning of the parsha in the first of the 4 parshas written in Tefillin from Parshas Boy. So the explanation of it is where Chachma encloses itself in the midas, and that's where the idea of the mitzvah is. But actually doing the mitzvah, where you have an actual piece of parchment and you put the tefillin on your arm and on your head, so that is in Malchus. So Tzion is the idea that it's a seal in which it's engraved all the higher lights of the highest spheres, the highest spiritual attributes, and they all come down practically when we actually do the mitzvah. But when we do the mitzvah, we should always remember the kavanah. The idea of remembering the kavanah is including the highest spheres in our action of the mitzvah. And when Malchus receives the light of all the spiritual, all the spheres above it, all the spiritual energies above it, then that's the idea of simcha, because then it's joyous. It's not just a simple action, it's an action with all the feeling and all the idea behind it. And now Malchus, then it's called Tzion. But when Malchus goes down into the lower world, into Biur, then it's in a place of darkness and independence, that there's not only clearly Hashem and that's it. So then Malchus is called Bas Tzion, the daughter of Tzion, because it's at a low level. It's not Tzion itself, it's a daughter of Tzion. And then it descends through the screens and the covers to be involved in the 70 ministering angels. In other words, that the world doesn't seem to be all directly godliness, but it comes through all these sort of seemingly intermediaries, and the purpose is in order to subdue them and show how really, whose place is this? Hashem's place. Whose streets? Hashem's streets. And they're like the pasuk says, "Malchus become inshallah," that Hashem's kingship has full dominion everywhere. Now, in Galus, in the time of Galus, that's the main time when Malchus comes down. Like it says that when we were exiled to Edom, the Shechina also was exiled with us. That then we've got dibur, speech, separated from the voice, from the sound itself. In other words, we've got the external of the Shekhinah coming down into worlds of separation, away from the inner core, away from pure godliness. And therefore, because we're far away, my soul yearns for you, Hashem, at night when it's dark and when we're in Galus, and it just wants to hug its beloved. But in the times of the Beis Hamikdash, it says it says that Shlomo's wisdom was more than all the peoples of the east and of Egypt and all the different wise people. They were all not as much as Shlomo, and Shlomo lived in a time that that the moon was complete. In other words, the moon represents the Jewish people, and you have the at the beginning of the month, the moon is small. In the middle of the month, you have the full moon. And that's like the time of Shlomo and the Jewish people in their full splendor and full revelation of godliness. So then Malchus didn't have to go down to Biur, into the lower worlds, in order to refine itself. It could happen in an indirect way through the Karbonos. The Karbonos were an appeasing aroma to Hashem, to unite back with Hashem in Atzlius, in the world of closeness to Hashem. And therefore, so when you bring up a carbon, you're bringing up an animal from this world to Hashem and uniting it with Hashem. And therefore, at that stage where the Shekhinah doesn't have to descend in order to get involved, it's called Tzion. But in the time of Galus, it's called Bas Tzion. Now, the prophet comforts us and says, yes, you might be in a time of darkness, but don't worry. Rani v'simchi Bas Tzion. Sing and rejoice, daughter of Tzion. And this is because when Mashiach comes, even when we're in this state of darkness and just simple action, we'll be able to reach the highest levels. That we'll be able to have both together, the advantage of the yearning and advantage of closeness, both at the same time. So the concept is, you can have dil'Eilah, an awakening from above, just straight revelation from Hashem, even without us achieving our Isarusah first, our arousal from above first. And that's where Hashem says, Lamani, yes, I'll do it for my own sake. Because normally the system is that first you daven, and through davening, especially in Pesukei de Zimra and in the first brach of Shema, that's a yearning going up to Hashem. And then we can afterwards have hamshacha, bringing down from Hashem to us. But there are some mitzvahs that we do even before davening, before we've had this yearning and this elevation, lifting up to Hashem, like we put on talis before davening. The only thing is that if we haven't put our own effort in first, so then it will only be superficial. Whereas once we've put in our own effort, then it will be the Pnimius. And that's why it says, that says Ivdos Hashem b'simcha boil lefanav rinah, that when you have rinah, your song from afar, that yearning and going up to Hashem, then boil lefanav, then you'll come internally lefanav to Hashem's inner face. When Mashiach comes, it says that about that time that in our Haftarah, that I will come and rest among you. In Hashem, says Hashem, meaning that says Hashem means that Hashem's words will rest inside us, like it says that the Shekhinah spoke through Moshe's throat, and like we say in Vayim Shemaya that Moshe says, "I will give rain," and not only Moshe says, but we say as well. We repeat Vayim Shemaya, "I will give rain." How do we do that? Because once we've said Shema, we've meditated and reflected on how Hashem is one and really taken that in, and we've come to a love of Hashem b'chol with our whole, all our might, with our whole being. So then we're totally united with Hashem, and then each of us can say, "V'nosatim taretzchem," I will give rain, letting Hashem speak through us. And that's the idea. It says about Matan Torah, the giving of the Torah, that Moshe will speak and Halekim Yanen Avakel, that Hashem will answer with a voice, and the Medrash adds, B'kola shel Moshe, he'll answer us with the voice, in the voice of Moshe. So then with Mashiach, we'll be able to have dil'Eilah, an arousal from Hashem, without us eliciting it through our own efforts. And that actually ends up higher, because then it's not based on corresponding to our ability. It's just straight from Hashem, which is unlimited and much higher. In Kabbalistic terminology from Pnimius, Atik. which is the inner part of Keser, and that's where Mashiach comes from. That his neshama connects to the deepest. It comes from Hashem at the deepest place, Pnimius of Atik, and therefore when Mashiach comes, we'll say L'tzin Yayama Ish Ish. That then Tzion will say man and man was born there, meaning that there won't be weakness. In other words, it won't be that when we don't put out in our own effort, then you only have that ish mazriat chiliyah let us nekeva. That normally if we don't put our own effort, just Hashem just gives, then the child, the result will be weak, but with Mashiach it will be strong. And like the pasuk says at the end of that kapitel, Peizayin Etilim, Lemnekerach, it ends off near the end that Hashem will establish it at the highest places, and that's why that because it's at the highest places, that even when Hashem gives just Isarusah straight from Hashem, it's still going to be very powerful, and that's why it will be ish for ish, no matter what, a powerful hamshacha to the Jewish people. And therefore, even when we're at a stage of bas, simple action, still Rani v'simchi. That the bas, the daughter, meaning what comes out from when Hashem just gives from his own side without us really eliciting it, it will elevate to a very high level. And we'll be able to have Rani and Simchi together, meaning Rani is when we're elevating up, Simchi is hamshacha down, bringing down, and we'll be able to have both together. And that's the idea of the Hanukkah candles are lit by the opening of the house outside, is meaning in the public domain, that even in the place of darkness we light up, and specifically at the opening. This word Pesach, the opening, is linked in Tanakh to Pischali Shari Tzedek. It's linked to Tzedek. It's in the same pasuk as Tzedek, which refers to Malchus. And like we've quoted before, the pasuk with Tzidkascha Yiraneno from Ashrei, that Tzidkascha, your righteousness, Yiraneno, we shall sing. We'll sing praises of Hashem's righteousness, but either way, we've got a connection between rinah, which is the song of yearning, and Tzedek, which is connected to the doorway. And outside the door means that we're going out into the worlds of which have some level of independence they feel from Hashem. And we like we say in Valanisim that they lit the candles. They lit candles in the courtyards of your holy courtyards. Why the courtyards? The courtyards means we're going out into the less holy place and lighting that up. And even in the public domain. And then we're able to have a unification, a unity between the light and the fuel and the wick, and with all the different colors of the fire, which represent the different energies, Pnimi and Makkif, internal and the beyond, and we bring it all down. We're at a level which is pure, dil'Eilah, pure arousal from above, beyond anything that we could elicit ourselves. Okay, that's the end of the Maimer Rani v'simchi. Next Maimer. K'Hashem Elokeinu hamagbihi lashaves hamashpili liros bashomayim ba'aretz. And the pasuk says, who is like Hashem our God, who sits so on high, he sits so high, but he descends to see the heavens and earth. So we're going to go back like we did in the Maimer on Chanukah, Inyan Chanukah. Now again, we're going to quote the two things that are called a lamp, ner. You've got ner mitzvah, that the mitzvah is called a lamp and Torah is light. And then we've got ner avay nishma sadam, our neshama, our soul is called a lamp. So what's the idea of mitzvah and the neshama being a lamp? So the main part of the lamp is the wick. Without that, the fire couldn't burn. But without oil, without the fuel, it wouldn't burn for very long. It would go out very, very quickly, and it wouldn't be a nice fire even in the meantime. So we need fuel as well. But still, the main thing is the wick, because that's what the fire actually catches hold to, and that's what's needed even from the first second. If the fire would go straight on the oil, then it would go out. So we need the wick. Next paragraph. So what's the idea of the lamp of mitzvah and the lamp of our soul being a lamp? So to understand this, we first have to reference what we say in Shema, we say V'ahavta, that we should love Hashem b'chol levavcha, with all our heart, and it's levavcha, some say because of the double base, it hints on the Yetzer Tov and the Yetzer Hara. So both our Yetzer Tov, our good inclination, and our evil inclination both have to love Hashem. The question is, how can that be? The Yetzer Hara, the evil inclination, it's not interested in Hashem. Well, how can you make it love Hashem? How can you even convince it? So the idea is, everyone has two souls, and the Nefesh Elokis and the Nefesh Bahamis, the godly soul and animal soul. Both of them have intellect and emotions, but the main part of each one is the intellect. Now, there's a big difference between them. The godly soul, what does it think about? It thinks about Hashem, whereas the animal soul thinks about everything as independent from Hashem. And therefore, the midas of the Nefesh Elokis are passion towards Hashem, whereas with the Nefesh Bahamis, it thinks about physical things and mundane things, and it sees all of them as real and important, the opposite of the godly soul, which is at the links to the level of Hashem's Chachma, which we say in Pasach Eliyos, Chakim b'Leib Chachma Yediyah. It is Chachma, but not the Chachma, not the type of wisdom we know about in this physical world. And it's beyond anything that we can understand and relate to. It's godly wisdom, whereas human wisdom, what we would just have from our Nefesh Bahamis, without our soul, when the animal soul, like from within this world, everything about it is false, and it's the opposite of the godly soul, which is true. In other words, that our intellect is seeing everything as separate and independent, whereas our godly soul is seeing everything as part of Hashem's. They're opposites in a fight. And we have to subdue the animal soul, that what should conduct the midas should be the godly soul, and therefore the midas, the emotions, should come to love Hashem with both our souls, even the animal soul. And this happens through first having reflection and meditation, and that's what Shema means. Shema means to deeply understand. And what we have to understand is that Havaya Elokeinu, Havaya Echad, that Hashem is Elokeinu. Elokeinu means what puts us into existence in a way which is involved in each level and gives each level the energy according to its spiritual state, how much godly energy can take in, which is called Mamale. Whereas Sovev, that's Havaya, which Havaya comes from Hayah, that it has past, present, and future all as one, which means it's unlimited. And that's where the essence of creation comes from, Havaya. But the detailed different levels of creation and involvement, that is Elokeinu. Now Hashem puts everything into existence again every second. On one hand, the world doesn't change Hashem, and there's the same God before creation, after creation, without any change, because the way Hashem creates the world is different to the way we build something. When we build something, so we have to get involved in what we're building, and the builder or the artisan has to focus himself totally in what he's doing and think deeply into it, and therefore it has a change because he has to be focused and involved. Whereas Hashem, there's no change. But all creation comes from Bar Shem Vod, meaning that only from a ray of Hashem, only from Hashem's kingship, but essentially Hashem is still the same. Because Hashem is king over them, over creation and everything that exists, therefore they have to continue to exist, and that comes from Malchus and Hashem's name. And at that level, Malchus, we could say Malchus is involved, but not with Hashem's essence. That's what we mean in Barashama, Yachid Chaylamim Melech, that Hashem is really alone. Where does Chaylamim come from? Where does the life force of the world come from? That comes from Melech. So when a person thinks deeply into this, then his animal soul will forget about, will lose its interest in the mundane materialistic things that it normally thinks about, with the overpowering of the strength for the godly soul that is thinking about Hashem's greatness. And this will create a powerful love, fiery love and yearning to cleave to Hashem, until his soul totally expires and he wants nothing but Hashem. And then the chachma of the animal soul will be like the oil that helps the wick, and that the neshama is the lamp of Hashem. the neshama is the wick that connects this powerful love with the oil of the nefesh bahamis, that it also should fuel the love of Hashem, to cleave to Hashem with a passionate desire. And that he should love Hashem v'hafta, like we say, b'chol levavcha, with all his heart, with both his godly soul and animal soul. And when the animal soul gets involved, it becomes much more powerful love and powerful light. And he cries out with all his heart and transforms the fire of the animal soul to a fire for Hashem. That's all the ner, the lamp of the soul, when it meditates on Hashem and includes the animal soul as well. Then we have next paragraph, Inyan ner shel mitzvah. So the idea of the lamp of mitzvah is that the mitzvahs have a special quality that they're able to elevate the nefesh bahamis, the animal soul, and connect it to Hashem. Like we say when we do a mitzvah, that Hashem sanctifies us with his commandments, meaning sanctifies us, that he lifts us through mitzvahs beyond his beyond the regular chain of worlds, because mitzvahs are levushim, garments, like we've previously discussed in other Maimarim in Torah recently. And levush, like the pasuk says, levush Malchus, garment of royalty. So we're connecting Malchus with levush. And so when we do a mitzvah, we have these garments that surround the soul, and that binds the soul with Hashem. Like when a person is wearing garments, you could pull him through pulling his garments. And like the pasuk talks about with the slingshot, that through pulling, connecting it to what you use to push back, and then it's able to shoot much further. So the idea is that we've got this mitzvah, this Makkif around us, and this allows us to elevate. And that's why we're able to put on talis and tefillin, and we actually should put on talis and tefillin specifically before davening, meaning we're involving a mitzvah, Makkif, and this helps to elevate our nefesh bahamis, our animal soul, when we daven. Because in order to elevate something which is a very lowly thing above, it has to, first we have to descend down, let a ray of Hashem come down to it, and then when he davens, he's able to elevate up. And that's what we do with the mitzvahs before davening, that helps us elevate our neshama when we daven. Now, davening has the same version. We have the same basic davening that we say every day of our life. Every day of our life, we have another spark that we have to elevate. And the nefesh bahamis has sparks according to the length of his physical life. He has that many sparks to elevate. On the other hand, the nefesh Elokeinu is eternal. So each day is a new day, and we have to elevate that spark which comes for today. And that's through mitzvahs. On the other hand, with learning Torah, it's something new each day. So with mitzvahs, we have to do it again each day, because each day there's another spark that we have to elevate. And if we daven again. Now, the general idea of mitzvahs, like the Yerushalmi calls tzedakah the general mitzvah, but really all mitzvahs are tzedakah, because the pasuk says that tzedakah terem gait. Tzedakah elevates a nation. The tzedakah is about elevating us, and it's when someone is weak and they don't have food, and you give them food, you lift them, and besides physically and emotionally, but the same thing spiritually, to lift us to the real life, to Hashem. And it says that Yaminoi Techabkeni, that Hashem's right hand, the right is the side of kindness and tzedakah, that hugs me with the Makkif that surrounds us to elevate us to Hashem. And that is Ner Mitzvah, the lamp of the mitzvah. What about Torah? So Torah is not elevating us to Hashem, but it's bringing Hashem down and revealing Hashem down in the physical, or in general in Hishalshalus, in the limited worlds, where there's normally concealment of Hashem, to create other types of beings and existence. and it's a place of darkness, whereas Torah is what's called mimamakim karsich havaya. It's called from the depth we call out to Hashem. Real calling out to Hashem is through Torah, and therefore Torah is called the depth. So the purpose of creation is to bring down Hashem's unlimited light from beyond his shalshalos onto the person's neshama. That Hashem should be resting here, manifest here in the limited worlds, just like in the higher worlds, like it says, Ani Rishon Vani Achroin Mi Baladai Ein Elokim, that Hashem is first and last, and there's nothing but Hashem. So Hashem can be at the top, Hashem at the bottom, both physical and spiritual. Before creation and after creation, and during creation, Hashem fits everywhere. That the world should be nullified before Hashem, just like it was before creation, and the only real thing should be noticeable that this is only Hashem, and this happens through Torah. Like the pasuk says that Hashem created the world. Hashem says, for my honor, for my glory, Barasiv, I created it, Yatzartiv, I formed it, Afasiv, I also made it. So now the first word, L'chvodi, for Hashem's glory, Hashem's honor, the word covered is the numerical value of 32. And the Chachma has 32 parts. There's what's called the Lamed Beis and Sivas Chachma. Then Barasiv refers to Talmud. The Gemara goes down all the way to Bria. Whereas Yitzartiv, I formed it, is the word of Yitzira. The Mishnah goes down to Yitzira. And Asisiv, I made it, that's Mikra, that's Tanakh, that can it has such a spiritual energy, it can come all the way down into this physical world, which is also why you do the mitzvah of learning Torah, even if you don't understand the pasuk just by reading it. Whereas with Mishnah and Talmud, you have to understand it. So either way, we've got the three parts of Torah, Tanakh, Mishnah, and Halacha, and then we've got Talmud, the third part, the understanding and analyzing and reasons. So all of them are ultimately from Chachma, and Hashem's unlimited light is revealed in them through Chachma, because Chachma is where the inner and the subconscious, or the unlimitedness, can reveal itself. In Binot, we are already trying to work out what it was saying, whereas Chachma is just letting your unconscious come out. That's why dreams is Chachma, memories are Chachma, ideas are Chachma. These are all things that just flow from the subconscious. And therefore, when the pasuk says on the Nisi that I am Hashem, it doesn't change. That just like before, that before creation and after creation, it's all the same. When people get to this level of really taking in that Eino Mavado, that Hashem Echad, so then they're beyond, and they're just talking from Hashem's perspective, like Rabbi Yehuda, that he was totally involved in Torah, and it says he was always involved in the Zikin, the chelik of Torah called Nezikin, business law and torts, working out in what case someone will be innocent, in what case the person will be chayiv, will be guilty, will have to pay the fine or the damages, and to separate between them. So the separating and working out the truth, this is separating Klippa from Kedusha, and therefore he was involved in Torah to such a state that he didn't have to daven. It was Teirosim Nosei. Torah was his occupation, like Rabbi and his colleagues. And like Shmuel said about Rabbi Yehuda, that Ein Ze Yelud, that this can't be someone who was born who was born from a mother. He's got this amazing Aim Samarele, the amazing Yira Shamayim is on him. That he was constantly in this state of battul, self-nullification before Hashem, that he achieved through his hisbonenus, through his Shema, because even Rashbi and Rabbi Yehuda, they still said Shema. They were only exempt from davening, from Shemoneh Esrei, but Shema they said to bring on over them this Hashem Echad. So therefore, their Torah was just letting Hashem shine through them, and therefore was like Hashem speaking through their mouth. And that's why it says that the Mishnah is the queen, So it's like royalty who just decrees what the halacha will be. You have a servant and a king. The servant learns the law in order to know what the rules are, in order to know what Hashem wants. Whereas the king, when he learns, he's not learning, he's bringing it down, he's teaching, he's deciding what it will be, because he is the king. And with Moshe, it says that the Shekhinah spoke through his mouth, and the same thing with Rabbi and with Rav Yehuda, each according to their level. But they were totally battul to Hashem, and therefore Hashem shone through them. And this helped to achieve throughout all the worlds that they should all be in a state of battul and nullification before Hashem, even in the low worlds, just as in the high worlds. Next paragraph, so now, mitzvahs are linked to this idea in Torah, and that Torah just brings Hashem's reality, one Hashem, and that's it down into the world. Like we say in the second sentence after Shema, that these words that I command you, Anochi, I means Hashem's, that it's coming from Hashem's essence. So and I command you. So the command, the mitzvah, is the wick that links the animal soul and the just sort of mundane intellectual soul to Hashem through Torah, which Torah is a chachma, which is not an ego builder, but it's about battul, self-nullification. But in order to get there first, we need the other lamp, the lamp of the neshama, to reflect on Hashem and to develop a love for Hashem, to the extent that the oil, the fuel of the Nefesh Bahamis should also be drawn towards the wick and be transformed, that instead of wanting physical pleasures, it wants Hashem. And when within Torah, you have all physical things. Torah talks about agriculture, and it talks about business and animals. So in K'Hashem, it talks about animals, and Zoram talks about agriculture, plants, etc. So when we learn about different things, we transform all of them to holiness, to allow Hashem's presence to be manifest and revealed in this physical earth. Next paragraph is hamagbihi lashaves. So this is what the pasuk means when it says that he hamagbihi lashaves. So the simple meaning would be he sits on high. Hamagbihi, he lifts, lashaves, to sit. He sits on high. So this word hamagbihi, it says, it starts off with hamagbiha, who lifts, and then there's a yud at the end. So that is, there's a yud in a hey, because a dalet and a hey are the same basic letter. The difference is that the hey has this upside down yud at the bottom on the left. That's the third leg, the second leg. And dalet comes from the word delays, that it has nothing for itself. And then with the yud, it becomes a hey, which is through mitzvah. So the mitzvah takes tzedek, which is this state of Malchus, which has nothing, a state of being far away in darkness, and makes it into tzedakah, and tzedakah that can then lift us. And that's the idea that the pasuk says in Halal hamagbihi lashaves, that we are lifted through this yud in the hay. The yud is the second leg of the hay, beyond worlds to Hashem's unlimited self, lashaves, that Hashem sits there. What is the idea of sitting? Sitting is about coming down, lowering, because the whole idea of Hashem getting involved with creations is a descent, like it says, that Hashem sits as king. So being king, being involved with other, is a descent. This is the top of Lamates now. And this happens through mitzvahs. So with mitzvahs, we elevate up to Hashem. But then with Torah, we bring Hashem down to us. And that's the next part of the pasuk, hamashpili liros. So first, hamagbihi lashaves, that he sits on high. He goes up, in other words, that he lifts us up through mitzvahs. But then hamashpili liros, he descends down to see. And that's through Torah. And it says this is liros to see bashomayim v'aretz in heaven and earth. So shamayim refers to Torah Shebachsav, the written Torah, and aretz refers to Torah Shebapeh, the oral Torah, because that's where we have to put in more of our own effort in order to develop the Torah. That's earth. And it says the liros that Hashem descends to see. So now we're not talking about the level of Shema. Shema means to hear, whereas here we're talking about to see. Because hearing is when we're trying to meditate and reflect to try to really take in intellectually that Hashem Echad. Whereas when we see it, that means there's revelation. We don't have to meditate. It's just clear before our eyes. And that's when Hashem, not that we have to go up to Hashem, but Hashem comes down to us and then it's revealed and manifest for us. In short, so we've explained that in this mimer, at least K'Hashem Elokeinu, about the two lamps, the ner mitzvah and the ner of the neshama, and how that they can bring the nefesh bahamis to love Hashem, and the ner mitzvah, the neshama is through bringing the nefesh bahamis to battul, showing that the only real thing to focus on is Hashem. And the ner mitzvah, that the different mitzvahs have this, they created garments around the person, including his animal soul, which you could use that if the garment is a Makkif, and you can use it to drag and pull up the person. And that's the idea of halal, whereas Torah is hamshacha, bring down Hashem's truth down. And we explain with that a few psukim, including hamagbihi, lashaves, hamashpili, liros.